All right. Welcome, everybody. If you're tuning in tonight, we are going to talk about Social Security, the basics of Social Security, how it affects you when you get to that age, what that age may be, and how you can determine what amount you'll get, or at least know how they determine what amount you'll get. Because if you're several years off, that amount could change between today and tomorrow. Or today and then. So we're not going to talk about the actual amount you're going to get today because that's different for each person. So my name is Mark Bilgier with Bilgier Insurance. And like I said, Social Security is the topic tonight. So let's go ahead and jump right in. First things first, I need to remind everyone that I do not work for Social Security, nor do I want to work for Social Security. Everything I talk about, though, is correct. And if you have any further questions, please put them in the comments. I have Paris Gray here helping me out, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. If they get real specific, there's things I can't talk about, and I need to avoid if it's specific to you because we don't know who all might hear. So tonight is more an overview, and then if you have specific questions you need answers to, you can put them in the comments. Or you can always contact us at info@Bilgier Insurance, and we'll put all that information in the comments as we go. So Social Security, everybody says it's running out of money. Is that true? Well, kind of. What's running out of money is the trust fund. So in 2010, it started paying out more in benefits than it takes in. But they made up for that with a trust fund because years and years ago, they realized that, oh my gosh, there's a whole lot of baby boomers. And they're all going to be hitting Social Security at the same time. So they started putting away a little bit of extra money. Well, of course, they've been using all that money, and that trust fund is probably going to run out by 2033. So when you hear people say Social Security is running out of money, what they really mean is that trust fund. And if that happens, if they don't do something about it, benefits will be reduced to about 81% of what they currently are. So nobody likes that. So they're going to have to find some solutions for that. A couple of options they have are to extend the full retirement age. They did that once before. It used to be 65. Now it's 67 if you were born after 1960. They can always increase our taxes. As you know, they take a little bit out every time you get paid. They could take some more out. They could cut the benefits. Well, that's most likely going to happen if they don't do something to fix it. And they could print more money. So I have a feeling it's going to be some combination of all four of those things. Nobody has an answer because everybody keeps kicking it down the road. But those are the things that are most likely to happen. But will it run out forever or will it run out totally? Nope. Let me go back just for a second because that's not how Social Security works. Social Security works by paying those currently on it from the wages of those currently working. So as long as there's a working population, we'll have Social Security. Those benefits could change like you see, but it won't ever go away. That's not a real thing. All right. Are you eligible for Social Security? Well, it depends. Have you been working for 10 years, right? So you need to have 40 quarters of qualifying credits or be married to someone with 40 quarters of qualifying credits. That used to be a bigger deal, not as much as it is anymore. Not as much anymore, I should say. 40 quarters equals out to about 10 years of work. And you need to be at least 62 years old. That's the earliest that anybody can get their Social Security retirement benefit. So that's what we're talking about is retirement benefits. When do you enroll? If you decide you want to enroll, you need to do it 2 or 3 months before you want your benefits to start, okay? And your benefits will start, or you'll get your first check the month after your benefits start. So if you want your benefits to start in June, you're going to get your first check in July. If you want to get your first check in June, then you got to start the month before that. So you need to, I would say 3 months just because Social Security's kind of backed up. Now, when it's just a traditional, I'm 67, I'm 65, whatever my retirement age is, it's usually pretty good starting your benefits. If you have any sort of special situations, I'd always go with the 3 months. How do you enroll in it? You enroll online at SSA SSA.gov. So here's your first assignment. If you have not already gone on SSA.gov and created your own Social Security account, you need to do that as soon as possible. This is where you're going to apply for Social Security retirement benefits. And in the future, this is where you will apply for Medicare benefits also. It's not difficult. You just go on there. You can see where it says create an account. You go create your account, and then you're all set to go. You can check your Social Security amounts as you continue to work if you want, at least your estimates. But I highly recommend that everybody go and start their Social Security account as soon as possible. What we're going to talk about tonight is what I call optimizing your retirement benefits. So a lot of times you'll hear people talk about maximizing, but we try to talk about optimizing instead, because maximizing, to make it easy to understand, means just make it as big as possible no matter what. Well, sometimes that sounds all right, but we'd like to optimize it, which means make it the best possible while considering other constraints and factors. We want the most desirable result. And when we're thinking about the desirable result, it's not just a number, it's your retirement and it's your lifestyle and it's how you get to live out your non-working years. So that's why we're trying to optimize that period of time in your life. Optimizing your retirement, not just getting a number. All right, some of the most popular questions that I get, are what is FRA? We're going to talk about FRA several times. That's your full retirement age. That's the age at which someone becomes entitled to 100% of their full PIA. There's no discounts or credits. Now, when I do this live, everybody loves the part when they all say, well, what's my PIA? And that's the very next thing I'm going to tell them. Your PIA is your primary insurance amount. That's the amount you're going to receive if you elect to get your retirement benefits at your FRA, your full retirement age. So at your full retirement age, you get your full PIA. If you take it early, you're going to get a discount. If you delay it, you're going to get a credit. And we're going to talk about all those here in just a second. First, you need to know what your full retirement age. Well, if you were born after 1960, it is now 67 years old. So the month you turn 67 is going to be your new full retirement age. If you were born earlier than that, just a few years, it's some combination of 66 and a few months. Anybody older than that probably is already getting their Social Security. So we're going to consider 67 the new full retirement age, and all of our examples are going to use 67 as the focal point. All right, so that's your retirement age. And remember, your FRA, full retirement age, is when you get your full PIA. And your full PIA is your primary insurance amount. So how is that determined? Well, I got the answers right up there. A lot of times I'll ask that question in a live event and people say, oh, my highest 5 years or my last 10 years or, all kinds of different things. Social Security uses your highest 35 years. So throughout your entire working life that you're paying Social Security taxes, they're going to look at the 35 highest years and they're going to use those. They're going to add them up and they're going to divide it by 420. 420 is 35 years. 35 times 12 is 420. And they're going to do that and they're going to come up with your average indexed monthly earnings. So your average indexed monthly earnings for this person over 35 years, they earn $2,222,399 divided by 420 equals $5,291. Now, all that money is indexed. What does that mean? That means back when they were 16, 17, 18 years old, they only made $8,000 a year or $12,000 a year, whatever it was, working part-time while they're going to school or their first job out of school. That gets indexed for inflation. So they put it in today's dollars. So that number is going to be, higher than it really is. It's going to look higher because it's indexed. So they averaged $5,291 on averaged indexed monthly income, but that is not their amount. After this, it gets a little complicated. So I'm going to show it to you, but I'm not going to over-explain it because these numbers don't apply to anyone on this call, most likely. So what they do is they take that number and they run it through a formula using bend points, where you get a certain percentage of the AMI, that average index monthly amount, when it's measured against 3 different thresholds. So in the first threshold, you get 90% if you make at least the top bend point. Most people get that. So that's a big chunk. And then to have 2 bend points, and if you're between that, the difference between those two, you get 32% of that. And if your AMI exceeds the top bend point, you get 15% of however much it exceeds it by. So you can see on this one, 5291 does not exceed 6721. So this person has a $0 over that, so they don't get any of that extra money. They get 90% of the first 1,115, 32% of the next 4,176. Their PIA is $2,340. That's how much this person would get at their full retirement age of 67 per month. That's how it's determined. Top 35 months or top 35 years divided by 420. It's all indexed. They'll run it through the bend points. The reason these bend points don't matter is because the bend points for you are determined the year you turn 62. If you're not 62, they're not quite determined yet. And if you're past 62, they're not these numbers because these were from just a year ago. If you're curious, the average Social Security retirement benefit in 2026 is $1,976. And the maximum someone can get in 2026 is $5,108. So 2340 is not too bad. That's pretty good Social Security benefit. When you put it all into perspective, it's a little higher than average, but not quite as high as it could be. What determines that? The 35 years, the highest 35 years. All right, so how are we going to optimize that? Well, remember, we're trying to optimize your retirement, not just that one number. Although we want that number to be as high as we can make it, we also want to take into consideration some other parts of your retirement life. So first, we look at the things that are easy to understand. Your fixed expenses. If you still have a mortgage, credit cards, loans, insurance, you can usually estimate what your food and utilities are going to be. Then you can have some other variable expenses, but you can still kind of set them, right? Travel, shopping, vacation, hobbies, that may vary, but you still kind of determine what they're going to be. And then we look at the assets that you have. What is going to provide you income in your retirement? Do you have a 401k or a pension, IRAs, a Roth IRAs, annuities, reverse mortgages, rental properties, life insurance, anything like that? So all of those things are pretty easy to know, but there's a few things in life that aren't always easy to know as we approach retirement. Some things that we just can't tell yet. What's your future healthcare going to be? Are you going to have to be a caregiver for someone? And have you ever experienced that? Will you need extended care? Will somebody have to be a caregiver for you? What are other people's money situations? Maybe you have older children you have to still take care of, adult children. Maybe they need help taking care of their children. So you're helping with grandkids. You don't know. They may not even be here yet. So you never know what might happen in the future. Plus, there's always the government, the economy, inflation, all those things. And then there's a few other things that may be known, but nobody wants to talk about. Like, do you even like working anymore? Do you even want to retire, or do you want to keep working? What's your current health like? Do you like where you live? Do you want to live someplace else? How many dollars do you really need each month? Do you need an extra 100 or 200? Or, is it worth the trade-off? Do you want to just change jobs, work part-time, be partially retired? Those kinds of things are what we talk about when we do our analysis with people and have our meetings. So we always have one big variable when we're trying to determine your Social Security, and that's going to be your life expectancy, of course, because once you start Social Security, you get it forever, right? You get it for your whole life. So if you live a long time, you get more Social Security because you live more years. Well, everybody's living longer because of medical technology and the pharmaceuticals that we have available to us. So a female that's currently age 60 has a 50% chance of living till 93, and a male who's 56 or 65 has a 50% chance of living till 90. So, that's if you're in good health. Genetics still has a lot to do with that. When we do our analysis, we let you pick the age that you expect to live to. All right. So the first question I always get, should I collect early or collect late? So we're going to go through those. I'm not going to focus on the numbers so much because everyone's numbers are different. We're just going to use this one as a guide. So we're going to assume Jeremy here retires at 67. He was born in 1960. He's going to retire at 67, and his primary insurance amount is $2,500, $2,500. That's what his full amount is going to be. Make this a little bit bigger, maybe. So he has the option, though. He can wait till he's 67, or he can take it when he's 62, or 63, or 64. But if he does that, he's going to make a big decision, and that's going to be a discount. So he's going to get discounted for every year he takes it. Now, again, this math gets pretty specific. They actually prorate it every month. So if you wait 2.5 years, or 2 years and 10 months, or 3 years and 6 months, it's going to be a little bit of a different number. In general, it's a 30% hit if you take it 62, if you take it, 4 years early, 25, 20, 13, 6.7, and then you're back to your full retirement amount. That lasts forever. That discount does not go away when you hit 67. It doesn't go back up to your full retirement age. The discount is based off that age, but you're going to keep that discount. You'll always be that percentage less than whatever your full retirement would have been as it goes along. However, if you love working or you have other funds, you can delay your Social Security retirement benefits, and it can grow. And it grows by 8% a year, guaranteed. So if you delay 1 year, 8%, 16, 24%. Now you can only delay it 3 years. So 70 would be the max. And you can see Jeremy here went from 2,500 up to 3,100 just by delaying. If he wanted to keep working, he can do that, and he's going to get that 8% increase automatically. So just remember, your PIA, primary insurance amount, at your full retirement age, take it early, you get a discount. Delay it, you get credits. And these are prorated also. So if you do a half a year, you only get 4%. It's a nice guarantee. But again, we want to look at your retirement holistically and decide what exactly is going to be best for you. The next question I get is, well, can I still work once I start my Social Security? So maybe I want to start early, but I still need some extra money. Well, the answer is yes. You can continue to work, but you'll be subject to what we call the Social Security earnings test limit, which means you can work, but you can only make a specific amount of money. In 2026, if you're under your full retirement age, so if your full retirement age is 67, anything 66 down to 62, the annual limit is 24,480. But here's how it really works. The first year you join, they look at it by month, because if you join in the middle of the year, well, you may not make 24,000, but you may make 3,000 a month. They don't do it that way. They do it off what would 24,480 be divided by 12. If you exceed that monthly, then you're going to have $1 of your benefits withheld for every $2 over that limit. Then when you go into the next year and it's a full year, you can still use the 24,480 as the guide. The year you reach your full retirement age, so for Jeremy, it'd be 67, that year, he can earn 65,160, except for they're going to do the same thing. They're really going to prorate it and see if he earns 5,430 per month. And if he exceeds it, they're going to withhold $1 for every $3 that he's over that limit. So you get a little more leeway, both on how much you can earn, how much they withhold, And then when he finally turns 67, there's no limit and he can earn as much as he wants. They don't withhold anything. There's no penalty at all. So if he, works a little bit part-time, stays under here, turns 67, he can go work full-time again. He can put in extra hours, do whatever he wants, still get all his Social Security or whatever amount he took, because he probably took it, remember he took it early, and then however much he earns. These two things right here are really important. If you've seen in the news a lot of talk about people having overpayments and then the government comes and tries to claw it all back, that's because, or not always, but a lot of times it's because they exceeded that. The government may not be up on it very fast. They find out and they realize they've been overpaying you. They should have been withholding that money, and they're going to claw it all back. So it's important that you notify them if they're going to exceed it. They'll find out eventually, but you don't want them to find out and then they claw it back. The other downside is any of that money that's withheld, you're still taxed on. So even if you don't get it, they're going to charge you taxes on it. This income only counts earned income and wages from self-employment. So say you retired from your full-time job, got a part-time job, but you took a big 401k distribution, they're not going to count that into the earnings limit. Now, once I say that, I got to warn you, they are going to count it for something else, but they're not going to count it for this. Only wages and only money earned from self-employment. And it's basically to keep people from double dipping into Social Security and working. They figure if you're going to retire, you're going to retire. All right, spousal benefits. This used to be even more confusing. It can still be a little confusing, but it's a little bit easier now. If you think of it this way, a spouse is eligible for up to 50% of the higher earning spouse's benefit. So if two spouses are working, one of them earns more money, the other spouse can get up to 50% of that higher earners. And how do they do that? Well, the lower earner who's getting their own benefit, they just adjust that to equal 50% of the higher earner. So let's take a look at it. So here's Jeremy. His primary insurance amount is $2,500 when he's 67. His wife, Samantha, they were high school sweethearts, met, got married. She had kids, never worked. So she has zero Social Security benefit. Since hers is zero, they'll bump hers up to Jeremy's, to 50% of Jeremy's. 50% of 2,500 is 1,250. So that's her spousal benefit. She doesn't have any personal benefit, so she gets a spousal benefit to equal half of his. Add them together, their household benefit is $3,750. At his and hers, $3,750. If, however, Samantha got those kids, into school and start working a little bit, Jeremy's is $2,500. She does have $1,000 a month benefit of her own. She can only be half of his for spousal. So her spousal benefit is $250. And if you add all three together, you're going to see their household income has not changed. Their household's still going to get $3,750 from Social Security. They just bumped hers up from hers, added enough to make it half of his. If she worked quite a bit more, Jeremy's going to get $2,500. Her benefit's already $1,250. She gets zero spousal benefit because she's already at 50% of Jeremy's. Household income is the same. This is really important for people to understand when we move forward. That $3,750 is going to be important. So remember, you don't get half of your spouse's. You get yours bumped up to equal half of your spouse's. That's how a spousal benefit works. But like everything, there's a little bit of a catch. And we don't need to be too big into the numbers, but you do need to know if you take your spousal benefit early, you also get a discount. And it's a little steeper even than on your personal benefits. So if she was going to get a $500 spousal benefit, and she took it early all the way at 62, she's only going to get $325. On the flip side, unlike your retirement benefits, you cannot increase your spousal benefit. So she can't delay it and increase it. So there's no sense in going past her full retirement age. This is Samantha. This is her spousal benefit. If she takes it early, she gets a discount. If she delays it, there's no credits. So there's no sense in delaying it. So how can this really compound and make a big deal? Well, if her own is $500 and she takes it early, she's going to take a discount on hers. If she waits, she gets the delayed credits. So now her own is going to become $620. So that's good. But remember, Jeremy's getting $2,500, so her spousal benefit can only equal $1,250. So her spousal benefit at her full retirement age will be $750. Her own $500 plus $750 equals half of Jeremy's. But remember, she took hers early. So if she takes her spousal early, she gets a second discount. Now she's going to get a total of $837. And she'll always have both of those discounted. She took hers early and her spousal benefit early. However, on the flip side, she delayed her own, it goes up, but you cannot increase your spousal benefit by delaying. So they're just going to raise it from whatever her own is up to the $1,250. $1,250 is the max. So her spousal benefit actually goes down from her full retirement age, but she's still at $1,250 because hers went up. So understanding that anytime you take it early, you're going to take a discount, and then sometimes you can delay it for credit, sometimes you can't. That's why it's important to talk with somebody who can walk you through it when the time comes. Can ex-spouses do it? Well, they sure can. All right. But they got to be at least 62 and have been married for 10 years to the ex-spouse. The person claiming the benefit cannot be remarried. And you have to be divorced for at least 2 years unless the ex you're claiming on is already receiving their benefit. Then you don't have to wait the 2 years. If they remarry, so if the ex remarries, it does not affect you or your benefit. It does not affect them or their benefit, and it does not affect their new spouse. So if you're still unmarried, they're filed and they're receiving their benefits, you can still file for your ex-spousal benefit. It's not going to affect them. It's not going to affect their new spouse. And the good news is if you don't want to, you don't have to talk to them about it. You simply call Social Security, give them the information, and they'll confirm your eligibility and tell you how much you want. So spousal can sound kind of confusing, but all those discounts are going to happen. And if you know what they are and you have somebody to talk to, you can understand it. If you're married more than once for 10 years to more than one people or more than one person, you just pick the highest one. Can't pick them both. All right. The next most common benefit are survivor benefits. This is when one of the spouses pass away and the other one's going to get a new benefit. This is where that household income is very important because survivor benefits, only one check gets paid, which always creates a gap in retirement income. So we say the survivor always takes a pay cut. What are they going to get? They're going to get the higher of the two checks. So in Samantha and Jeremy, they'd get Jeremy's check, $2,500. Samantha's would go away, so they're not going to have the same household income. She's going to lose her spousal benefit and her personal benefit. Can you file survivor benefits on your deceased ex-spouse? Yep, as long as you're not remarried before the age of 60. You can remarry after 60 and still do it. And if the spouse earned delayed credits, those will apply to survivor benefits. So remember, you can't delay spousal benefits, but you can delay survivor benefits. So you can switch between your personal benefit and your survivor benefit. And you may work, but your earnings limits do apply. So just like taking your own, if you take them early, you're going to have those earning limits. And if you exceed them, they're going to withhold based off your age and based off the amount available that year. If the deceased person took their benefit at 62, remember that's going to be the biggest discount that they took, then the most a survivor benefit can be is 82.5% for the survivor. So what does this mean? This means generally, as a rule of thumb, the higher earner tries to delay because they're going to leave behind a bigger benefit. Okay? Have to have been married for at least now 9 months to get survivor benefits. And there's just a few exceptions to that, but 9 months isn't that long. So what are the main points of all that? The surviving spouse takes a pay cut. They always take a pay cut because they're going to go from 2 checks to 1 check. Yes, it will be the higher of the 2, but they're still going to lose the money from one of the checks. 2 checks become just 1. In general, the higher earner should delay taking Social Security as long as possible in order to leave a larger survivor benefit. However, everybody's different. Maybe there's a big age gap. Maybe there's a huge wage gap that are different than, the age gap, things like that. So that's a rule of thumb. It pays to work with a Social Security advisor to determine what's going to be best for you. All right, taxes on Social Security. Do we still pay taxes on Social Security, or do we get to? We absolutely do. All right, so what counts? Remember, for earnings test, only your wages and money from self-employment count. Well, what counts to determine if you pay taxes or not? Almost everything. I'm going to list it all out for you. So first they start with everything you earned, your adjusted gross income, and then half of your Social Security benefit. So they're going to add half of that. And just for anybody, if you have municipal bonds that are technically non-taxable interest, they're going to add that interest. So there's no such thing as non-taxable 100%, it seems like. There's a few, but not that many. All right, your wages and salary, self-employment income, pension and IRA distributions. They do apply to this, not if it's Roth. Interest and dividends off your investments, capital gains off your investments, rental income or royalties. They're going to count that. Unemployment benefits even get counted to see if you're going to be taxed on your Social Security. What doesn't count? Just a few things: Roth, IRA, 401k, life insurance payments. Life insurance payments are tax-free. A lot of long-term care benefits, if you're using them in specific ways just for long-term care, can be non-taxed. Some qualified annuity income can be non-taxed. Gifts and inheritance, loans, or if you cash out, refinance, get a reverse mortgage, or take a loan off a cash value life insurance plan, those don't count. Veteran benefits don't count, and workers' compensation doesn't count. But everything else does. Now, how do they determine how much you're going to pay? Well, this has a lot of different computations too, so I'm going to make it really simple for you. If, as a couple filing joint, your provisional income, which are all those things added up, that big list I said, is $32,000 or less, none of your Social Security is taxed. If you're married filing joint and your income is between $32,000 and $44,000, then up to 50% of your Social Security is taxed. And how do you know? Well, it's going to fall in there someplace. So remember, the average was just under $2,000 a month per person. So if we rounded it up to $2,000 a month is $24 per person. That's $48 per couple. If you're living just off Social Security, you've already exceeded that $44, and now you're up into the next threshold, married filing joint, greater than $44,000, up to 85% of your benefits can be taxed. More than 50% of people pay tax on their Social Security. So, did I skip it? I skipped it. So what we do for people is instead of showing them how this gets figured out, we just stick it in the software. We put in their income, half their Social Security. If they have municipal bonds, press go, and the computer does it, and we can tell you exactly how much you're going to pay tax on and what percentage of your income that is. So working with the Social Security analyst can really make things a lot easier. So what are we trying to avoid? Well, we're trying to avoid two main retirement risks, right? Why we want you to optimize your retirement and why we want you to understand what your Social Security is going to pay, because your Social Security is a major part of it. Because remember, once you start it, it goes forever. So that's a good thing. It's not going to run out on you. It's not going to go down on you. And it's going to go up a little bit based off cost of living adjustments. However, those are primarily built just so nothing is eroded each year. So they're not going to go up. You're not going to make a lot more. You're not going to have a lot more purchasing power. It's just going to be enough to look like it goes up. So what are we trying to be aware of? Our sequence of returns on savings and investment, and I'll show you why that's important. And then your health care. To optimize your Social Security, you need to know how it's going to fit into everything. And these two things have a lot to do with that. So what's the first one? What's the sequence of returns? Well, if you have other money invested, you've been saving during your working years, and that's called the accumulation phase. And during the accumulation phase, what the market does over time, you hear people say it all the time, oh, it doesn't really matter, it always goes up. Well, you know, it may over a long period of time, but sometimes it doesn't feel like that. So you can see from this picture, I have two people. They both started with $100,000 when they were 41 years old, put it in to start saving for retirement. The sort of beigeish one on the left, they started off bad. Man, they had a year down 12%, down 21%, down 14%. Then it turned around again. But if you look at the person in blue next to them, but look at the bottom, they finished minus 12, minus 21, minus 14. These are the same exact returns, just inverted. One started off poorly, one started off better, finished poorly. So what happens at the end? They both average 8%. And when they're 65, they both have $684,848. So it worked out because they were accumulating. So they both ended up with the same portfolio. They have the same exact returns, just in a different sequence. However, now they're 65, they take their 684,000, roughly 685, and they have to live off of it. So they're going to withdraw 5% a year. Now they have the same returns, but inverted. And what happens? Well, this one starts off late. The one that's beige starts off kind of bad. The other one starts off kind of good. They're both pulling out an additional 5%. So instead of being down 12, he's down 17. The other one is down 21. They're really down 26. And by the time the first one is 81 years old, he's out of money. Or 82 years old, he's out of money. Where the other one still has money all the way to 90 and actually has $2.6 million. That's a big difference. And the only difference is how the money or how the returns came in what sequence. So over time, when you're accumulating, the sequence is less important than when you're in the distribution phase. And then the sequence becomes very important. And unless you have other guaranteed income and your only guaranteed income is your Social Security, you're going to have to draw off more than 5% possibly. And that's going to exacerbate that sequence of returns, and you may run out of money even sooner. This is not even considering a healthcare crisis. Why does it affect this way? Well, because every time your investments go down, you actually have to earn more to get back to where you were. So 10% is the easiest one. Go down 10%, you have to earn 11% to be back up to where you started. But if you're taking an additional 5%, that 11% jumps all the way to 44%. And then you can see if you have a huge decline, like we have had in the past, 30%, but you still have to live off of it, it needs to go back up 85%. Well, if you don't have the 20 years for that to happen, if you're already 75, 79 years old, you may not have that kind of time. That's why understanding how your entire retirement plan fits with your Social Security is very important. And then finally, your Social Security and Medicare. This is the healthcare part. So a lot of people think Medicare and Social Security are one and the same, and they're not the same, but they do kind of touch on each other. So here's one thing to remember. Whatever your whatever your Social Security is, say it's $2,000. Once you start Medicare, your Medicare premium is automatically deducted from your Social Security amount before you get your check. So if it's $2,000 and this year it's $202 for Medicare Part B, your check's going to go from $2,000 to $1,800 before you ever see it. So now you're already down another $200, another $2,400 a year. And that's only part of the cost, because in addition to the premium, Medicare has co-pays, co-insurance, and other premiums that go along with it. Drugs are in addition to Medicare. Medicare does not cover prescription drugs, so you have to deal with that through a standalone prescription drug plan plus co-pays or co-insurance on the cost of the drugs, or non-medical recovery costs. So a lot of times people may get cancer, have a stroke or heart attack, and they're going to recover, so they're going to be okay, and their medical bills are probably fairly well covered, but somebody has to come help take care of them, or they want to travel to a special hospital. I know here in Texas, a lot of people want to go to MD Anderson. It's a very wonderful hospital for people with cancer. Well, Medicare or health insurance is not going to pay for your travel, your hotel, lodging, food, if you had to take time off work, none of that. If somebody goes with you, they're not going to pay for them. When you come home, if you need to recover and have someone come help with care around the house, just helping you get from the bed to the chair, or cooking meals, or doing laundry, helping you in and out of the bathroom, shower, bathing, grooming, any of those, Medicare doesn't cover for any of that. That's what we call custodial care. Experimental drugs are not covered, even with drug coverage. Still not going to cover experimental drugs. So there's a lot of opportunity for that portfolio that we looked at on the previous slides to get wiped out even faster, depending on the sequence of returns and if there's a healthcare crisis. On the other side of that, your income, so say you have a really good income, also affects the cost of your Medicare. And how that works is it's called an income-related monthly adjustment amount, or an IRMA. And in this context, we do not like IRMA. So IRMA looks at your income 2 years prior to when you started Medicare, and there's different thresholds. And if you exceed the threshold, then you actually pay more for your Medicare Part B. So this is 2026 that I have, and you can see if you're married filing joint, then you have the threshold is $218,000 or less, and that's the $202.90. So if, as a couple, you made less than $218,000, you'll pay $202.90 for Part B and zero IRMA on your drug plan. Now your drug plan may cost $20, but you don't have to pay any sort of adjustment because your income is good or it's low. If you make $1 over up to $274,000, however, you get to pay $284.10 for the same exact coverage as this $202, plus an additional $14.50 for your drug plan. So now if you had a $20 drug plan, it would cost you $34.50 for the same plan as this person. And that goes all the way up to if you make $750,001, your Part B costs $689.90, so $690. If there's two of you, you're just about $1,400 a month just for your Part B, plus another $90, $91 for your drugs, so another $180 for the two of you. So it can get very expensive. That's called IRMA. If you're receiving Social Security benefits, remember your Part B comes out of your check. So maybe, if you're a higher earner, you may have a $3,500, $4,000 check, but if you're in this threshold, it's going to be $405 less by the time you get it in your bank account. So Medicare isn't exactly related to Social Security, but they do touch each other and they do influence one another. So what's the most important thing that we took away? Focus on optimizing your retirement, not just maximizing your Social Security. We do both. We look at it, but we don't just stop there, because that's easy. I'll put that everybody's going to live to 120 and wait till they're 70, and that'll be a big number. But that's not realistic. Know the benefits you're eligible for. So at first, it may just be your retirement benefits, but then you may become eligible for a spousal benefit. You need to know how much your spouse is getting in their benefit. You may be eligible for survivor if you lose a spouse. Yours may be the higher check, so you're going to get your check still, so it won't seem any different, but you're going to take a hit because you're not going to get theirs anymore. Remember, survivor always takes a pay cut. Know the effects of your decision. If you take something early, that's going to last forever, right? They don't build back up to your full retirement age, to your primary insurance amount. If you take it early, that discount lasts forever. Now, can you fix it if you make a bad decision? The answer is yes, but it's very conditional. It's only within the first 12 months, and any money you've received, you have to pay it all back at once. And then you can withdraw that application, and then it'll act like it's delaying again. It'll be like you never did it, but you can only do that one time. You need to understand how the sequence of returns is going to affect your retirement and income. So your Social Security will stay consistent, but is that going to be enough to pay all your fixed expenses and then, help you with the lifestyle that you think you're going to have in retirement? Prepare for the unexpected. The most unexpected thing is going to be a healthcare crisis, and a healthcare crisis is the number one way for a portfolio to be eroded and for people to run out of money. So if there's any other questions, please put those in the chat. We go through a little fast because a lot of those numbers, remember, the numbers aren't what's important. What's important are those takeaways, that you want to make your retirement as good as it can be. You want to know what benefits you can have. You want to know those effects of your decisions, right? Those are the things. The numbers are going to be the numbers. Unfortunately, we have really awesome software. It's called the RSSA Roadmap. I am an RSSA, a registered Social Security analyst. And so what we do is we meet with people one-on-one or with a couple. We gather their information, and then we can get every opportunity that is available to them and every combination of it. When one spouse files at this age, the other spouse files at this age, and we can look at every combination of that between 62 and 70 for each person and figure out what's going to work best. We also can look at if there's dependents that are going to be eligible, and spousal benefits, survivor benefits, all those things. So we do a nice report for that. We're doing a special offer. We're doing $149 for the custom report that shows the amounts you can collect at all the different ages. Spousal and survivor strategies, if you're married, divorced, or widowed, how your decisions affect your taxes and Medicare. We can determine how much your Medicare tax is going to be and which strategy provides the most lifetime income. But we want to keep in mind lifetime income and an optimized retirement may or may not be the same thing. So we want to have a little bit of a talk about that. But planning your Social Security is one of the most valuable things you can do. A lot of people take it, they figure, I'm 62, I should just take it. Well, the difference between taking it at 62 and 67 is 30%. And the difference between 67 and 70 is 24%. So that's a 54% swing. So if you could get a 54% increase in your income, understanding how it's going to work or anything in between that, that's worth doing. That can be worth thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So if you would like to talk about taking advantage of our software and having a one-on-one consultation with me, and I'll walk through your report, I'll show you all the opportunities that are available to you, just please comment RSSA roadmap in the chat, leave an email that we can get back to you, or a phone number, whichever you prefer. And I appreciate everybody that came in tonight. And if there are no questions, we will go ahead and wrap up. Paris? All righty. I thank everyone for coming. If you have any other information, please check out Bill Gear Insurance, BillGearInsurance.com. Email us at info@BillGearInsurance.com. And we would be happy to help you with your Social Security, Medicare, life insurance, any other thing that's going to protect your family and optimize your health and protect your wealth. Thank you.